Hello, everyone, and welcome to this session. Before we start, and I know this can be a little bit strange for some, it's definitely for me, it's a silent session. So even though it's going to be super engaging, you're all going to be hearing us through your headphones. So I would invite everyone just to wear the headphones over there. And similarly, when we open it up for questions, it will work in that same way. We will only hear you with our headphones on. So amazing. I see everyone already with the headphones. If you don't have one, we can provide you one at the entrance. Perfect. With those logistics set, I wanted first to welcome you to this session, which is hosted by the 100 Plus Accelerators and by the Water Foundry Ventures. We're very excited to have you all here to talk about innovation and the role of innovation in water stewardship. We're going to be hearing from amazing entrepreneurs from all across the world. But before we jump into the panel, which is going to be the most exciting part of the session, we just wanted to give you a quick recap of the story of an initiative that's called the 100 Plus Accelerator. And for me, it's a very inspiring initiative that was launched by AB InBev, the leading brewer, back in 2018. So as you have heard, well, first, my name is Carolina Garcia. I'm the Global Sustainability and Innovation Director for AB InBev, and I lead the operations for the 100 Plus Accelerator. So let's kick it off. As you have heard throughout these last 3 days, the role of collective action is vital to address wicked problems such as the water crisis, the water scarcity, water quality. And it's fair to say that no one company can solve these pressing sustainability challenges on its own. Not only no one company, no one organization, NGO or government. We cannot do it alone. This is why back in 2018, AB InBev decided to launch the 100 Plus Accelerator. And we did it as a strategy to reach our global sustainability goals faster, because we knew that even if we have the most amazing and talented teams throughout the world, they don't have all the answers to all the problems, right? And we needed to go outside our doors and partner with innovators from all across the world that were solving these sustainability challenges and work with them towards getting new solutions. So how does the program work? Every year, we publish all the challenges that we have in our webpage that I would encourage you to look at. And we call out for applications. We receive applications from all over the world, from thousands of entrepreneurs. We select the most innovative ones across different markets, and we give them each up to $100,000 to implement a pilot within our value chains. And more than the funds, which are important, and we'll hear the startups talk about these, the most important part of this is that we give them a team that works hand in hand with these startups to plan everything and helps them navigate through the organization. And we work together as a team to deliver on the KPIs, to innovate together, to be able to fail together and restart the process again. And I think, and the startups can let you know when you hear from them, how valuable it is to work together as only one team. And then, of course, after the pilot is done and we have successful results, we all join together at a demo day. We're in fact having our global demo day in New York on the 28th of September. You're all welcome to attend virtually or in person, where the startups come together and showcase what they have done. And if successful, of course, our dream is to help them grow and scale throughout our organization. The advantage of being one of the largest companies in the world is that we have the scale and the speed to truly have a transformational impact. So that was AB InBev's initiative, and it was going great. We were very proud and inspired. But then in 2021, something wonderful happened. And it's that the Coca-Cola Company, Unilever, and Colgate-Palmolive decided to join this initiative. And together, we're 4 of the largest companies in the world. We're basically found in absolutely every market on the world, joining forces, leaving our competition aside to boost innovation through collaboration. And I think this is amazing. And you will hear Will talk a lot about the role of catalytic communities in delivering true collective action. And I think that that's a really good example of how for corporates decide to join and work with innovators to actually deliver change, because we know that together we can go further. So this journey with these other 3 companies has gone really far, and we're proud to say that so far we have worked all together with over 116 startups from over 30 countries, and I'm always very excited to see how this map of the world gets colored every year with new geographies and new startups that we're meeting from all across the world. And they are truly amazing. You will hear from them in a second, because they're actually doing great solutions in so many different areas. Our challenges are not only focused on water. However, today we will hear some of our best water startups, but we also work on circular economy, on smart agriculture, climate action, inclusive growth, and lately on biodiversity too. And we have, of course, we want sustainable innovation to also be good business, because we believe that it's not only about having a sustainability strategy, but having a business strategy that it's actually sustainable. And this is why these startups are not only helping us innovate and be more sustainable, but in many cases also helping us reduce costs or advance towards a regulatory risk. They're helping us become a beacon in the forefront. So cost savings is another big pillar for a program. And then external investment, and you can ask the startups, we work together with them to help them get the funds that they need to be well capitalized. Because if the pilot is successful, we need them to have the funds to actually grow and scale at the pace that a large corporation like AB InBev, Unilever, Coca-Cola, and Colgate needs. And lastly, but not least, we also believe in the power of working with our brands that have so much reach. They're loved by our consumers, and they have the opportunity of giving a message sometimes even more powerful than a message that a corporate brand can give. So we're currently piloting cohort 4, and today you'll meet 4 of the cohort 4 startups and 1 of our cohort 3 startups. They will be in the panel just in a second. And this is our largest cohort up to date. It has been really challenging, but we have been working with 46 startups from all across the world, with some also interesting metrics of over 20 spoken languages, with half of them being founded by women or by the youth, which makes this cohort a true inspiration for all of us who are involved in the pilots. So this partnership has already gotten global recognition because it delivers on the power of collective action, but we believe that this is a movement that can keep growing, and it can keep growing if you join us with your solutions, becoming also perhaps an investor of the startups or another customer of the startups, or referring us your technologies if you know them. So at the end, we all want this to grow and that we can continue to dream big together. And that's why we need all of you, and we need great partners. And with that, I think it's the perfect introduction to give the space to Will Sarni, who has been a great partner of both AB InBev and the 100 Plus Accelerator since the very beginning. I must even say that 2 of the startups that will be in the panel today, we met them through Will. He has been a convener, as you know, and many of you already know him in this space. And with the Water Foundry Ventures, also a partner of the 100 Plus Accelerator, helping us get the best pipeline we're going to host this session with. So without further ado, please welcome Will with a round of applause.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're holding up well midweek. It's the home stretch. Really honored, excited to be here and participate in this conversation. And I do hope it's a conversation and you ask really good questions. Carolina mentioned I'm a big fan of the 100 Plus Accelerator program, and that's really for a couple of reasons. Having spent a good portion of my career doing corporate water strategy, the notion that a multinational at the scale of AB InBev would actually start to partner and search for entrepreneurs globally to solve a host of wicked problems. And also then bring in other multinationals to help them scale and identify innovative technology solutions was really groundbreaking. And historically, corporations worked with NGOs on conservation projects. So this was a big step out for a company to really do something different and engage with different stakeholder groups. So big fan at the beginning, bigger fan now, and excited to be working closely with them in helping to identify innovative technology companies and help them grow and help them succeed, because that's the only way we all win in solving some of these big challenges. So I'll talk a little bit about Water Foundry Ventures. It's an outgrowth of Water Foundry, the work that I've done for a couple of decades on corporate water strategy. It really fits very nicely into some of the things I'm seeing on the corporate side. So thank you, just to get that slide out of the way. And to be clear, and I've got another thank you at the end, by the way. So Water Foundry Ventures, the question is, what do you focus on, impact or returns? We don't think it's a choice to be made. We believe that by delivering returns, we can help companies succeed and get investors more engaged in the water technology sector, which it desperately needs, and deliver impact and quantify that impact. And what you'll see with the 4 companies presented a little bit later is that they deliver impact, and they are scaling through the support of AB InBev and the other partner organizations. So don't need to read the slides. I think everyone is here because you know what the issues are in terms of water is a finite resource. It's poorly managed, and that's being generous, increasing demand in the scheme of things. The intersection of water and climate is painfully obvious right now. I'm based in Denver. The American West is going through a ridification. It's having an economic impact, a social impact, a business impact. And in general, sort of generalist investors don't know a whole lot about the water sector. So we decided that, for obvious reasons, we would focus on water tech at the intersection of agriculture, energy, and climate. Water tech has been in the news. These are just a few articles that we've seen. Interesting change here in that you're starting to see the media from the financial world start to talk about how to invest in water tech and what that means with respect to investment thesis and so on. I mentioned that Water Foundry Ventures was born out of Water Foundry. It's sort of a logical extension. I started making angel investments after I left Deloitte. That essentially became the gateway to think about raising more capital and having a bigger impact. And it's something I love. I like being at the intersection of corporate water strategy, technology innovation, and investing. I think it's a really interesting place to be. Why invest in us? Access to multinationals, we see them as really critical partners, understanding what they need, what's important to them. Essentially, market validation, great tech pipeline. We invest in breakthrough nexus technologies. We can talk a little bit about what we value, which is mostly about the team, quite candidly, in the scheme of things. And we've got a very diverse team. It's more than me, fortunately. And size of the market, when we talk to people that might want to invest in the fund, we have to convey to them that this is a big market opportunity, very significant addressable market, and what we're seeing in terms of investing in exits. This is a sampling, if you will. Really interesting players here. I don't know if you know of Autodesk, but they've been investing in water tech companies. They started with Innovators. They invested recently in Transcend, which is an AI treatment design company. So unusual partnerships are showing up, and to me, to us, that means that there's a big opportunity here, an exciting opportunity. Our competitive advantage, I talked about this, we have very close partnership relationships with AB InBev, which is why I'm here, and also PepsiCo. And as you think about, multinationals that are leading on water stewardship, in my view, it's certainly these two and others included here because they're doing things like this. They're stepping out of the norm and really engaging with different stakeholder groups. Really striking photos of the team. But this is the group. We've got me, the other two key partners. One has about 13 years of experience in venture fund investing, not in the water sector, fortunately, because he is the voice of reason. I fall in love with tech, and he is the rational person that pushes back. And the other key partner has 30 years of experience as an entrepreneur and investor. So he'll, along with me, take the lead in working with our portfolio companies in helping them grow. We fall into the category of smart money. We don't write a check and walk away. We want to be part of the team, not tell you what to do, but be additive however we can be, whether it's through, clarifying value proposition, outreach to potential customers, whatever it may be, helping you pivot along the way. And some of the fund details, you'll have the deck, but this is where we sit, $100 million fund, seed and Series A stage investing. We like that space a lot. It has a lot of potential. This may change over time, but at least for Fund 1, this is where we're going to be, and we're excited about the pipeline. So this is my thank you slide without saying thank you, but really honored to be here, be part of the conversation. I think that you'll find that really the valuable part of this all is less about the intro and who we are, and it's more about, well, who are the tech companies in the cohort, and what are they doing, and how are they going to have an impact? And for those of you out there that are interested in engaging with them, I really encourage you to do so. So with that, I'm not sure if we have a slide for the panelists or not. No, we don't? Okay. So I am going to call up two of the panelists who are here live, and the other two are live but online. Mina, I made you laugh. That's good. I'll take it. Okay, you can hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh yeah, I can hear you. I can see you. It's great.
I'm super happy you didn't use the entrepreneur's, picture. I was wearing the same pants and shoes. It's tech people usually wear the same outfit, right?
Oh, wait, do you have a vest on? No.
I have like a QR, techie style.
This is great. You're on brand.
Exactly.
Oriana, not so. All right, not bad, not bad. We're going to start with entrepreneur jokes, right?
You can start.
All right, great. I really am excited to have a conversation with these four entrepreneurs. It's not for the faint-hearted. It takes enormous dedication, a passion. Yesterday I talked about unreasonable people. You are certainly in that category, which I think is something to be damn proud of. So, Oriana Bretschger. Did I get it right?
Well done, well done.
And I've known you for years, and with Aquacycle, co-founder and CEO. Nico Wertheimer.
Yes, Will.
Co-founder.
Co-founder.
Of Water Plan.
Yes.
What a deal.
You were part of that at the beginning, man.
I know. I think I helped you get excited about the water sector, huh?
Oh my God, yes.
So if you succeed, I get the credit, right?
For sure.
Okay, I'll take it. Kitos, Mina Sankaran, good to see you, unfortunately virtually. Thanks for being on here. And Annie Liu with H2OK. Good to see you again. It's been years, I believe.
It's been 1 year.
Has it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God. Well, so much has happened in a year. I'm sorry. Well, here we go. I'm going to keep stepping on my feet here. So I'm going to ask a few questions, get the conversation going. I think we have, what, 20 minutes-ish? Yeah? As much time as we want? All right. This is definitely a softball one, but how can innovative water solutions contribute to mitigating the effects of climate change and biodiversity loss? So it's a question for all of you because you play in that area, I think, or else I would not have asked the question. So, Oriana, you want to go first?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so water plays a critical role in climate change, a critical role in all of our lives and every life on the planet. And so the preservation of water quantity and quality is critical. Where innovations take place, right? Monitoring quality and quantity, treatment, ensuring quality, and of course, we need to disseminate information to everybody about quality, quantity, what's available, how to manage correctly. And so innovations fill all of those roles. Now, if you want to learn how AquaCycle does it.
Well, that would be helpful, really.
Yeah.
Unless you want to talk about water plants.
You can talk about water plan if you want. Like, we can.
The goal here is to get you talking amongst yourselves, so I don't ask you questions.
Just water.
Yeah.
So AquaCycle provides industrial wastewater treatment as a point source remediation, saving our industrial clients anywhere from 30% on their sewer bill, and we mitigate over 100 tons of greenhouse gas emissions every single month. Because the way that we treat these very concentrated wastewaters is done extremely sustainably, using very little energy and natural biological systems that we enrich in place. So there's actually nothing that we import. There's nothing genetically modified. There's nothing grown in a lab. But we create environments to select for organisms that have a capacity to generate electricity at the same time that we treat water. And so our goal is to distribute this opportunity for savings and sustainability to all of our industrial clients, present and future.
Great. Thank you, Oriana. Annie, I'm going to jump to you. Can you respond to the question and then obviously provide insight on where you fit in the technology solution and business model solution?
Absolutely. Thanks, Will. And yeah, Ariana, thanks for starting off and really fascinating the work that AquaCycle is doing. So I'll give a little bit of insight into this. I think, yes, definitely echoing everything Ariana said, but kind of adding a little bit of more color into the picture. I think that at H2OK Innovations, we work with a lot of enterprises from large to commercial to smaller. And I think a common often thought is, hey, like we want to be more sustainable, but like sometimes it doesn't make sense for us, like financial sense for us to do so. I think that when we approach innovation and also sustainability, we need to come from a point of view that, look, like sustainability and business sense are not mutually exclusive. That, hey, like through the laws of like matter is always conserved, energy is always conserved. If you're able to be more efficient and sustainable in the way that we operate and in our supply chains, we're also able to reduce costs and increase revenue and decrease inefficiencies at the same time. But they go hand in hand together. I think changing that mindset and how we approach sustainability from a corporate and also from a societal sense and stereotypical sense is important in order to think about that. Well, they go hand in hand together, they make sense. You need to have sustainable solutions that make business sense, that makes it easy to adopt. And that's really what we hold at H2OK Innovations. A little bit about who we are and what we do. We're a IoT startup, and basically we have an IoT operating system specifically for optimizing industrial liquids and fluid systems in manufacturing and supply chain and infrastructure. So through the 100% Accelerator, work with both Coca-Cola Company and also Unilever in a lot of work in production optimization, where we've been able to reduce, for example, downtime caused by water-intensive processes such as clean in place by over 40%, and also reducing or saving and unlocking 440 hours per year across even just 2 process lines and beyond, reducing factory water usage by over 10% in some of our customer facilities. We do this across the board with numerous other corporate enterprises as well. But really, it's that collaboration between the corporate and innovators and startups that truly are able to help us think through, hey, you know, like we've solved a lot of the easy problems and there are only hard problems that sit in front of us. So perhaps the way that we approach hard problems, we need to think about in a different way in order to unlock and make different progress to some of the hardest problems that remain. And this unconventional way of engaging startups and engaging unconventional players is really the path forward to making the progress that we need to achieve. And so there's just some thoughts on our side, but again, everything needs to make sense. And that's what we believe deeply at H2K Innovations.
Great. Thanks, Sandy. I'm so glad you brought up that, you know, sustainability at large, you know, and water, which is the topic here, is not optional anymore. It is a business imperative, if you will, and it's the
Absolutely.
right thing to do for business. And, you know, knowing all four of you, I know that you've crafted your value proposition along those lines, that this is not a nice to have, you know, feel good, it's critical. So Nico, heads up, you're last.
Okay. Since the first time we talked, I totally crafted the, you know, the value proposition related to, I want to do everything, remember?
I know, I remember clearly. Mina, so can you talk a little bit about what you're doing and how it fits into that water, climate, biodiversity challenge?
Yeah, you bet. First off, I wanted to say that, you know, carbon has a lot better marketing in terms of climate solutions. So you know, having water industry, I'm gonna use the word that you really love, Will, is that industry legends like you talking and, you know, kind of really proposing water in alignment with climate is just more and more important. I don't think we explicitly talk about it as much as we should. So really glad to have that conversation here. I think from a keto standpoint, you know, Oriana kind of touched upon this as well, like understanding water quantity and quality is sort of like the yin and yang of knowing water characteristics. And it's extremely important to see both sides of the coin. And what we work in from a qualitative as well as quantitative standpoint of providing intelligence to customers is you don't act on what you don't measure. So if you're unable to gather that intelligence in a meaningful manner, in an actionable manner, then you're really not going to be able to do the kind of change, but also have a very data-driven decision-making as part of your core operations. And so from a keto standpoint, we fundamentally help customers in understanding their water reuse, understanding their water recycle, increasing their water recycle. To date, we monitor about 29 billion gallons of water globally. We're deployed in about 6 countries outside of US, besides being deployed in more than half the states in the United States. And really aggressively also have reduced over 2,000 metric tons of carbon. And this is just scratching the surface in the larger scheme of things about understanding the impact of water quality, whether it's in the source, whether it's in process optimization, whether it's in your effluent discharge. And one of the things from a biodiversity standpoint, Will, that I think a lot of times people don't fully associate water with is, you know, blending groundwater and surface water and conserving the groundwater, and at the same time, managing how the discharge is happening in the surface water and helping customers re-inject the water back into the aquifer. This is something we actively work with a lot of our customers as well. And this can range from mining customers to public utilities to a lot of the farming community that we work with as well. So we have a wide array of customers basically deploying these robotic systems that we have developed across the entire life cycle, while giving them a very acute sense of insightful action via our AI platform.
Thanks, Mina. Nico, your moment.
I already forgot the question, Will.
I find that hard to believe.
Yeah. Can I say thank you first? Like, we have users here. Thanks for the Accelerator to basically collaborate with us to basically achieve this goal. I have been part of this sector for many, many years, right? In my case, like 12 or so. Started as a doctor, implementing partner projects, locally at the watersheds that were exposed to specific watershed risks. And I wanted to do everything when we started. I co-founded this with a software engineer, with Jose, and we talked to Will, and there was a big challenge that could be accelerated towards the solution with technology, but where do we start, right? We didn't know where to start, and that was the question that we asked ourselves at the beginning. After 2 years, our value proposition is centered mostly as a software as a service, climate water risk platform to help companies achieve their targets and mitigate basically and adapt to water risk basically with 3 or 4 main uniques. The first one was around centralizing data, right? Either from what other colleagues are doing, they are doing an amazing job, like amazing firms that are collecting data, satellite imagery advanced, that amazing scientists in this session are here that have developed great models, launched satellites that we can use those data sets and those trends to understand the different and more challenging risk drivers, use machine learning and AI to understand reputational changes at the different watersheds, what the community is saying, what are the risk drivers that are mentioning and so on, the sentiment analysis, so we can understand and tell the great story that we need to solve them, gather and understand the problem, as Alliance for Water Stewardship says, is the first step, right? So their data can add a lot of value for that first unique by saving us time, right? By helping us have accurate data so then we can act upon, right? So basically we have done that, given these first steps with amazing, can you hear me okay, just in case? With amazing partners in the Accelerator, with a few, and I'm so happy about that. That's the first unique. The second one was on quantifying. We have that data now. We have centralized all those different amazing data sets, so everybody can talk about this water data crisis in the same language. Now we have to quantify, right? We need to quantify either that risk, how big that value at risk is, that cost of inaction, like CDP is asking for corporates to report that. On top of spending a lot of hours and weeks working on CDP reporting, you need to have the best data to basically quantify that value at risk, and then the return of investment, and sit with a CFO and share a backlog of different projects that have an ROI so you can decide and invest, right? So quantifying that was the second unique that we focused the most and we are investing the most on. At the same time, we are monitoring basically and quantifying that impact with the centralized data from precipitation, soil, the baseline of the watershed, and so on. And just to finalize, we have a marketplace where we are basically putting together all the different players. We are having that up-to-date, vetted, and also we are training them. We are hopefully launching a school on water stewardship and technology soon. And now, after 2 years, Series A, 20 million in, board, oh my God, man, this has been crazy. And I believe that I need to thank everybody, from being 2 people when we met, now we are 90 in 2 years. Wow. And that represents the traction and the size of the crisis, I believe, right? So one of the other things that technology can do here is bring the innovation engines to the sector, to this amazing expertise that we have today in this session and in this venue, basically. That's what I want to say.
Great journey. Thank you.
Thank you.
It was worth the wait, Nico. I'm going to go off script, be forewarned. Amina, you brought up the issue of climate change and how much traction climate tech gets compared to water tech. So, one thing I've noticed is that, more traditional water tech companies have now woven in the climate value proposition as it being part of the solution. Do you think that's changed for you in terms of how you go to market and increased interest in your company, your tech, because you're now talking about, I guess you're going to go first, Oriana.
Yes.
Yes, please elaborate. But I'm going to ask everybody because I think this is really important. And I agree with you that the climate narrative is, I think they really kind of nailed it. And whoever they are, did a better job than we historically have done. So, so talk to me.
Yeah, it did take a minute to get the carbon story up front and center. I'll just make that but they have done a great job in doing so, the collective they. But from the Aquacycle perspective, being able to tell our story in tons of greenhouse gas emissions mitigated has made a big impact with not only our clients, but also, you know, it resonates more, believe it or not, more tangibly than an actual tangible water molecule does with a lot of the people that we talk to. And so, you know, treating water, there's been technologies around for decades that treat water. But they're not very scalable when you think about, okay, 80% of our wastewater that we generate globally is still not treated and discharged to the environment. But the 20% that we do treat actually, you know, is responsible, the technologies we're using now are responsible for as much greenhouse gas emission as the entire shipping industry to treat 20% of our wastewater. And when you put it into that context of, whoa, we got 80% to go, there's no way we can use our existing technology to do that. That is now resonating, right? But still, that statistic is not widely known. When we start quantifying and measuring our greenhouse gas mitigation with our clients, that was the first time that they're willing to talk publicly about what we're doing with them. It's not pounds of biological oxygen demand, you know, taken out of the water. It's not how many metric meters we're treating every month. It's tons of CO2 that is not being generated because we're on place at their site. And so we are looking at different ways that we can quantify, you know, all the way along the stream of treatment. So not just what's happening in place, but the sludge that we're mitigating, the hauling costs that we're mitigating, all of the different pieces that you know, are in that supply chain of managing water and the waste products from wastewater treatment. So we've got a pretty good calculation now. It's been validated by the California Energy Commission. We published on it. And so now we really understand all of the savings that we're providing from a carbon perspective.
Great. So that's a yes. Nico, you know, when we first met years ago, climate was always there, but in your intro, you really saw, you punched that up and made it very clear around the connection between climate impacts and water risk and all the reporting requirements and so on. You want to just expand on that a little bit?
Yes. Can I ask you a question before answering?
I'm hoping that this would be a conversation.
Yes,
Nico,
amazing.
So go ahead.
Like a coffee situation, right? Like you're saying that like climate and carbon like initiatives are winning water and water stewardship. Have I understood that correctly?
Yeah, it sucks the oxygen out of the room.
Yeah, okay. My perspective is that for sure the numbers are extremely higher, and like the CDP report, 30,000, like 30,000 CDP climate, and we have like 3,000 maybe for water security, right? Just as an indicator. I believe that we, as entrepreneurs, need to focus, right? I have just arrived from Silicon Valley. Maybe I say like crazy things because I'm a little bit jet lagged still. And what I want to say is like, if we need to scale till the level of immense challenge that we are facing here, right? Like the global and the local challenges, the big amount of data sets, the need of like technology to be applied to quality, to quantity, to like finding the right partners, to measuring the right impact, understand what watershed health actually really means, right? Like which are the best indicators to track those benefits, and we need to focus. After 2 years of saying like, hey, Will, we want to do everything, like biodiversity, let's put it all in the same. We need to focus on water stewardship, right? Especially us entrepreneurs. We need to give water stewards the right tools, right? For us to scale and continue to position water in the right place, and for policymakers to have the right data sets, to have the business cases for water proven, you know what I mean? So basically, I believe that when I hear that, I say to myself, like, challenge accepted, right? I will focus, right? I will focus on water stewardship. I will focus on risk. I will focus and have the best data sets available to save the best time that I can to amazing ABI leaders, for example, right? To give them the best ROI for specific initiatives that you can do locally, right? And then to keep track and to save time on the reporting, for example, right? For us to have those case studies and success stories to share with policymakers and so on, and go to water utilities then. They'll have a huge market there as well, as you know, and then continue with governments. But we need to start with water, focusing there. Water stewardship, yeah, please.
No, I was going to just clarify that I didn't mean that we should just pay attention to water and not climate. Obviously, everything's integrated, including biodiversity and so on. But yeah, I understand your journey, and I agree with your focus.
At least wearing the hat of a venture-backed software-as-a-service startup that needs to grow extremely, fast, there's a huge potential need, right? And we need to deliver. If we open, like the umbrella, super big, we will not be able to focus and deliver what I believe that the market needs right now. That they are like screaming, time saving, better data, collective action, right?
Yeah, I agree. You're not going to hit that hockey stick of growth with.
And the best solution for the market, yes.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, the
Thank
hockey
you.
stick.
What?
Oh, the hockey stick.
Oh, the dreaded hockey stick, right. Yeah, that's a longer conversation. I actually think the hockey stick is in the wrong orientation. It's being on its side. So Annie and then
more like a sine. I was going to say, well, it's more like a sine wave rather than a hockey.
Right. It's kind of lumpy, because that's business. That's the way it goes. Painful. Easy for me to say. So Annie and then Mina, you want to weigh in on that?
Yeah. The comment I was gonna make on what we were talking about just on the climate side of things and how the reporting works. One of the things we've noticed, and it's when you look at large organizations, a lot of times you have, in the future, I believe every role within an organization is going to have an underlying DNA fabric within sustainability. It's no longer going to be one department that's sustainability, and then all the other departments do not have any sustainability metrics or goals associated with their role. I think every role within corporate is going to have an underlying sort of metric associated with their core role that is driving sustainability in whatever they do as an organization. I think we will get there. I hope we get there. But until we get there, what tends to happen is the carbon conversation tends to be more prevalent in the sustainability charter in large corporates, not as much as water getting up their charter. So you might be talking at a very operator-centric plant level who's very intrigued by how do I address water issues? How do I do different types of water treatment? How do I improve our water optimization? How can I use this data in a more cohesive way that I can influence a lot of the impact? And we see a lot of that, and you're fully embedded in it. And all the water startups are in there trying to achieve the same. But the large scale impact only happens when the right hand and the left hand really start working in synergy together. And I think that transition between the CSOs and sort of like the water leaders is not as synergistic in terms of being completely aligned and saying, if I have to take any climate action for this organization and achieve my climate goals, by the way, there's no way I can achieve my climate goals without taking all my water experts' input from the organization. That is not a leading conversation indicator. It's more of a lagging conversation within corporates. And I think that part of that is also because a lot of the water quantifiable metrics are not aggressively sort of economically communicated. I mean, WRI has now started coming up with a framework, and different folks are coming up with a framework, but it's still quite unclear in how the water quality metrics are going to get credited. Like, now you have carbon credits, water credits are expected. But I think until there is a true equanimity on that front, and we have standardized quantification of how this data needs to get represented, each one of us is focused on the success of the use case, the success of the value, and then elevating the presentation and the perspective of how we communicate. I'll just give you one last example over here, is that we started doing something like a customer insight capture, because customers are seeing so many actionable data on their platform every day as they're interacting. So it's like, what does the operator see and what does the CSO see? Not everybody's using the platform. So if we can give them quick insights that they can check on their phone as, by the way, in the last 90 days, this is what you've done. In the last 30 days, this is what you've done, as a quick kind of glimpse, it just gets them excited about water. So it's sort of putting that hat of not just solving a technology issue and solving and creating value, but now creating a common language within roles across an organization to move the force forward for a larger scale that we want to impact in.
You brought up a couple of interesting points. You know, water quantity goals are easier than water quality. Water quality is complicated. It's still a compliance issue primarily, but baking in water quality KPIs into your water stewardship strategy is a bit of a brave new world as you push past compliance on that. So that's interesting. Annie, can you weigh in on this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I really liked what you said and definitely resonated with that as well. It's important to always understand, especially when you're working in a corporate or across organizations, hey, like what are people's agendas? And, from the user perspective that, like, especially if you're working in the operations level, which is the work that we do, we work right in factories, in operations, in data centers, for example, beyond. It's important to understand, hey, like what is the most important KPIs and metrics that my user cares about versus, we're also communicating with the CSOs, the, water leads, for example, or sustainability leads and beyond. Like, how do you get this communication across the organization, across everyone's agenda and tie everything together? I really resonated with what you said about kind of creating that common language in terms of water in an organization, because it's definitely not held like on the top of mind across everyone in the organization. I think that's important to recognize. Something that kind of touching upon, Will, your question regarding climate and water, giving you a little bit of a perspective. At H2OK Innovations, we're physically based out of this organization called Greentown Labs, which is the top climate tech innovation community in North America. And so we're technically in this climate tech ecosystem actually physically, but I think that it's great to have water and climate be hand in hand. I'm really excited to see this water stewardship agenda and narrative continue to be rising year after year. Since we started at H2OK Innovations, it looked very different from where it is today, and it's only growing from here. I think that it's important to take multiple different perspectives in how you quantify value and ROI for your users and your customers. And absolutely, carbon and climate, energy, and all of these sustainability metrics also tie hand in hand with the water stewardship value that we're creating at H2OK Innovations. And so when we think about quantifying value, we think about, here are the gallons of water that I saved, or the liters of water I saved. Here's also the amount of energy that I saved from reducing production inefficiencies, for example, or also reducing the amount of hot water that you use. So you also don't need to heat that water, or the wastewater that you're able to save that you don't produce by being more efficient in your water use, to pieces like carbon emissions, for example, and also scope 3. Like, these are things that we all tie into the ROI when we talk about this narrative and share this across the organization. And everything, I kind of mentioned this earlier, right? Like, everything goes hand in hand. Water goes hand in hand with energy. Water goes hand in hand with carbon. For us, water goes hand in hand with Industry 4.0, smart manufacturing, production inefficiencies, or driving production efficiencies, might I say. Everything goes hand in hand, and it's important to look at this in a holistic perspective, because otherwise you will be missing key components of that narrative. Everything, again, sustainability goes hand in hand with business. Water goes hand in hand with energy. And I think that's important to take a perspective of that, holistic manner to get all of that metrics and capture all of that ROI, and really give water the, a weight that it, and the gravity that it deserves to have.
I like that, gravity. And I mean that seriously. So I've got time for maybe 2 more questions. So I'll ask the first one, and hopefully we got a few minutes for a quick second question. But look, this program is all about partnering up with, more than one multinational. And I think in itself that's innovative in the scheme of things, because it's a different platform construct, expectations, engagement. and so on. But can you talk a little bit about your experience? Certainly the benefits, any of the challenges, certainly handle that in a delicate manner, folks. But I think there's a lot of value in sharing that with everyone that's online and here, because it's, lessons learned. What can we do going forward? So, Nico, I'll start with you. Just
Perfect.
keep it
Short and sweet.
Yeah.
I know what you mean.
I know
what you mean.
No. Answer fully.
Perfect. With the water accounting data of everyone. I'm kidding.
Yeah, right.
Basically, I believe the Accelerator was an amazing experience. We got really lucky, and we got to partner with more than one, of the multinationals, basically. And through this unique journey that I was mentioning before, either on centralizing the data or quantification, we came up with really good experiences. First of all, I want to say that when Caro mentioned working with a team, specifically either from ABI or other corporations, we have received the best feedback that we have ever gotten, at the level of the detail that adds immense value to drive innovation in the sector. And so I believe that that's part of the culture of an accelerator program with multinationals and so on that are actually users of what we are basically deploying, right? That was the first. On what we got to do is help them accelerate some of the processes that were a little bit more complicated because either Excel sheets or too many data sources, many stakeholders, and basically technology on that first unique of water plan on centralizing data to generate the specific use case of understanding, gathering and understanding, such as the Alliance for Water Stewardship says. Basically, we could, and I believe we can then expand towards time, save a huge amount of time and centralize immense data sets. And also on that first layer of centralizing data, we could enhance basically some time saving and also data accuracy on what do I answer when I do a risk assessment and I am basically a local leader. Basically, I'm maybe not a water expert, right? But I need to report on this water risk type of information. So help them access some visuals and data sets on the watershed conditions on top of centralizing data added a huge value to understand where different players were standing at the global level. And so basically that I believe has a huge scalable potential. And again, the feedback was super valuable. That way of explaining the story works, right? I'm saying things and yes.
Yes,
and
that was short and sweet.
Short and sweet. I have 2 more seconds if you let me, but it's not
2 seconds, you've got 2 seconds.
And with other partners, we work on the quantification, and we took that to the C-suite basically showing transparency on how companies can take on the ground quantification of challenges, right? And it can be explained to treasury levels, financial departments and so on. So that showed a great transparency from what was going on the centralization, quantification, and from the,
Thank you.
Yes.
I'm going to be dragged off stage in 5 minutes. That's why
that, right?
Yeah, with the hook. Annie, can you weigh in on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Through the 100+ Accelerator, we initially, in the beginning, started work with Unilever and also Coca-Cola Company. And since then, so we were in 2021 cohort, since basically a little bit over a year, almost 2 years, really excited to be significantly expanding in Unilever across operations, doing really great work in Coca-Cola Company, and also seeing the similar kind of value driving that we're creating for these corporate partners, and exploring also expanding that in the other corporate partners in the 100+ Accelerator as well. So I've just seen this tremendous traction and really catalysts for scale. And I think impact creation, when we think a lot about engaging with startups, I mentioned this earlier, what got us to where we are today might not be enough to get us to where we need to be tomorrow in terms of water challenges, sustainability challenges, efficiency challenges, and beyond. So we need to look at unconventional areas of innovation and unconventional strategies that is working with startups. I think as a startup that works with also a lot of other large enterprises, I see the 100 Plus Accelerator being in a really unique position. Oftentimes you see this challenge of pilot purgatory where basically you might have a large or like a corporate engage with a startup and do a pilot, and then it kind of just gets stuck in that pilot stage forever, or it can't scale from there. Impact creation doesn't mean anything if it's stuck on the small scale. Like really what we need to look at is aligning stakeholders across the organization to make sure that we're able to, slam dunk this, create significant ROI for us. Like we're creating 16x financial ROI payback, for example, for our customers in our factories, in our operations and supply chain. And so, okay, we do that. And how do we create the pathway to sustainably scale and actually expand this impact across the organization? That's something that is, I'm going to be completely honest, like very, very challenging. And it takes a lot of, firstly, conviction, and also kind of a ability to think creatively and think differently. And also really just like belief in terms of, okay, I see this impact or this great result in this kind of smaller scale first. Like I want to line the pathways to be able to scale this across my organization. When we do that on the large scale, especially because like all of these corporates that work with the 100 Plus Accelerator are all very large companies that have large operational footprints and large supply chains, like the impact can be massive. And that's something that we're really excited to be doing and seeing that pull with the 100 Plus Accelerator corporates that we first started working with, and what we're starting to do now with the other 100 Plus corporates as well. And so that's something I would urge the audience here to think about. It's how do we actually sustainably work with startups beyond just a small scale pilot? How do we really align the pathways to scale? That's something that, I think it's still a work in progress for
Annie.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Hi.
Yeah.
I if you were here, I would wave, but I hate to cut everyone short, but now I get dragged off stage. So thanks to everyone. One thing I would add.
But you're not dragged off stage. You can stay, Will.
No, I'm making a joke. Not a good one. Hey,
well,
wait,
if
no,
I may,
one thing, somehow before this all ends, I'd be interested in hearing a bit of your origin story. It's like the team, the people are really the most important thing. So like, just like how'd you get hooked on water in a sentence? But you don't have to answer it now because Carolina's here and she's going to tee up the questions. But
no, I think that's a great way of finalizing the panel and then opening it up for the public, because we've been receiving so many questions online and we just want to give you the opportunity also to speak. So I'll be here reading out the questions online, but of course you can also participate. And if you have any question about the program itself, I'm also happy to answer. But before we jump into that, I think Nico and Ori.
Short and sweet, like, like
30 seconds?
No, not time.
Pitch?
One sentence, and it can't be a paragraph. Like
one sentence.
One sentence. What got you hooked on water?
I'm a medical doctor. I saw the consequences at the hospital myself. I jumped into the communities to start.
Thank you. Elegant. Oriana.
I was raised in the rural southwestern United States, and I didn't always have access to a flush toilet.
Mina.
Grew up in India and probably encountered over 14 waterborne illnesses before I was even 15, and had access to 1 hour of water for 18 years of my life.
Thank you. Annie.
Wow. My brother and I are co-founders, and we come from a generational manufacturing background and family. It's always in our passion, and water has always been the essence of that. And so excited to be doing the work we're doing today.
That was awesome. Short and sweet and to the point. Thank you for being part of this community. Carolina, go for it.
Well, we can also open it up for the public, but in the meantime, I can read some of the questions that we have online. So Carly is asking online a question specifically to you, Mina, but others can jump in too, and says, you talk about carbon being more relatable in measurement than water. Do you think that this will change in the future, Or is this the way to go forward to show savings?
Yeah, it is. It's certainly, well, first off, thank you for the question. And I think that it is already changing. I think that it's more about bringing common alignment across the language that we talked about. So I think the more cross-functional sort of organizations get to a common language, I didn't catch the name, Caro, of the person who asked. But really, if you start looking at how that equation weighs in, then companies like the way Aquacycle is doing that reporting, to how Quito starts doing the reporting, to how Water Plant starts, showing that water risk index for them, I think all of that cross-functionally will weigh in. And one comment I wanted to make, Carly, perfect, thank you so much. Yeah, Carly, that would really be the show piece of it, because while we're reporting on compliance and water quantitatively, we can also show water quality. And I think that we're just beginning, but this is not the end. We're not going to just be, shaping into carbon data alone. We're certainly going to make a huge impact on water reporting unique to water. The only other comment I was going to make in the previous piece of it is the Accelerator, Carolina, and I've told Caro this, that the A for Accelerator, and one of the most important things that make it, I've been in the corporate sector for 24 years, very, very unique about what these 4 organizations do is cross-functional alignment. A for Accelerator is A for alignment. The mindset and the attitude that they come into to work with startups is not of lip service. That by itself brings what the 4 companies here are represented, because there are a lot of corporates that will talk about it for brand. They will talk about it for just getting you into a pilot, but they will not have the collective action that this group has brought to surface. So it's, in case I didn't get a moment later, I just wanted to kind of make sure I got that out. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Malte Nordmann is my name, work in Germany. We know 4 billion people are more or less suffering from water scarcity. Most of them are the vulnerable and the poor. So let me play the devil's advocate. How will these people profit from your innovations, which I think are important? We talked about collective action to solve the water crisis. Coca-Cola. I admit from time to time I drink Coca-Cola. However, everybody knows, Coca-Cola is a profit company, and without water, there's no Coca-Cola. What is the intention, let's say, of the Accelerator to cooperate with companies like Coca-Cola to serve really the needs of the vulnerable, of the poor people in the world?
You want me to do that?
Sure, we can both try and give an answer.
The role of the private sector is really critical at this stage of the game, and the role of entrepreneurs, investors, and other stakeholders to weigh in on solving these issues. So it's going to take everybody, and it's going to take companies that have the scale, speed, and capital resources to be part of the solution. So, I'm a consultant. I just look at it, I think fairly objectively, that it's got to be everybody. And yeah, it takes everybody to contribute. So I think if you look at what corporations are doing, they're actually doing a fair amount in terms of delivering solutions to disadvantaged communities. Yeah.
I would add to that, it's true. Without water, there's no Coca-Cola. Without water, there's no AB InBev. Without water, there's no Colgate. Without water, there's no Unilever. Without water, there's no life, right? Water is the basis of life, and we all need it, and that's why we all need to be water stewards. For us, water, it's not only, our most precious ingredient that we take care for in our operations. And of course, here we have seen how these startups are helping us get the best quality on the effluent, that are helping us to manage risks. But we also go outside our operations, because even if we are the most efficient companies in the world, we know that if the basin is water stressed, well, there will not be water for us or for the communities and for everyone that uses the water in the basin. And that's a key pillar in our water stewardship strategy for the four corporate partners that are part of this initiative. This is why in the 100 Plus Accelerator, we also work with startups that are working with the communities in the watersheds. And perhaps a really good example, we have many, and I will encourage you also to follow us on our social media, because we're always publishing the great stories about these entrepreneurs. But perhaps maybe two examples of how we work in partnership with these communities. One that I would love to highlight, because it works both with AB InBev and Coca-Cola, is a startup called Toroto. It's a Mexican startup that helps the communities and the companies build nature-based solutions within the watershed, and also helps communities like farmers transition into regenerative agriculture to be more resilient and to have, of course, better yields in the future and take better care of the soil. So that's an example. Another one that perhaps you saw in some of the talks for the last 3 days is an Israeli startup that's called Ajala, that in fact, through a nature-based solution, a portable unit, and sometimes it's hard to describe, they can treat also any effluent. And we brought that technology into 2 schools in Bolivia, in Sacaba, where the children at school didn't have any access to sanitation, and with that technology, we managed to provide that. So, of course, the community piece and ensuring that everyone in the community benefits, it's core to the 100 Plus Accelerator, and it's core to AB InBev. And I must say, and here it's Alex who leads our water strategy at ABI, if you can raise your hand, and of course our wonderful team. But something that I'm honestly very proud of about the company I work for is that our water goal, it's centered on the communities. We committed that we, in our high water stress areas, we want to make all of our efforts to have a measurable improved impact in water quality and quantities for the communities. So recognizing that when we use water from a basin, it's not only for us, it's for a broader group of stakeholders, and that's what water stewardship is about. It's about this collective action.
And Will, if I may make one quick comment for the gentleman who asked the question from a startup perspective, one thing critical to realize is the startups might be able to build a really innovative technology, but if the government and the policy regulatory aspects are such long cycles of adoption that if private sector does not help catalyze us and accelerate us, that technology won't exist. The innovation itself won't see the light of day to make the impact that we need in the underdeveloping areas that really, really desperately need the support. So one of the key pillars of what these types of corporations are doing is by giving us the volume potential, they're helping us commoditize the pricing so that we can manufacture at much lower prices potentially, especially for hardware systems like, say, Aquacycle or Ketos, where we can bring it to the masses and make it very accessible and very affordable in large volumes. That's where communities will really start seeing a more mass adoption. So in order to get to that mass scale, the first step is private sector, because public sector does not really help startups at the range and the timing to realize that vision at the pace that we need. So I just wanted to make that point very clear, because it's a critical piece of how everybody fits into the ecosystem.
I have here more questions online, and I know that there's one over there. If we want to do one online, one from the public to make it more equitable. So we have here a question from Lenny to the panelists that said, what concrete actionable advice do the panelists have for aspiring water entrepreneurs?
Be resilient.
Apply to Accelerator. We can say that.
Of course. And they clapped on behalf. Amazing.
Be as creative as you possibly can, because you have to be the scrappiest entrepreneur you can ever think of if you're going to survive in water.
Colas.
Be creative in the way, or be hyper-focused in the way that you quantify return on investment and value that you're generating. That's key. And how you communicate it as well.
Go for it.
Is this working? Yes, very good. Mary Matthews, I'm with UNDP Water, and wonderful to hear all of these innovations. It's really amazing and exciting, because I also am running an innovation challenge, so I've got to give you guys extra credit for all the work you're doing with these folks. Quick question, and this is kind of a follow-up to some earlier comments, which is the governments and the enabling environments, because we have found with the innovation challenge that we're running on oceans that if you don't get the governments involved, it really can create some challenges in the ability to upscale and so forth. And so we require that. And I'm just wondering, within the work that you all are doing, which honestly is phenomenal, and I'm really so excited to see this. How are you all working on the enabling environments within the governments? Is that something that you all are doing? Or are you focusing mainly on the private sector impacts?
I'm happy to start that one off, and I know there's going to be comments from others. But so from our perspective, the reason that we started in the industrial sector commercially was, as Mina mentioned, the ability to scale faster. And also the relationship that the enterprises already have with governments, right? They've already made relationships, within their municipal centers, even, state and federal level in some cases. And so from a technology adoption perspective, as an early stage company, we need to see growth, we need to see volume out there, we need to see the proof. And then it gives us case studies that we could then take to governmental organizations to pass the regulatory requirements. In sanitation, it's challenging. And especially a new technology in sanitation and trying to get that permitted and across different governing bodies. In the United States, I'll just give you a California example real quick. If we're permitted to operate as a sanitation provider in San Diego County, which is where we're headquartered, I am not permitted to operate as a sanitation provider in San Bernardino County, which is an hour drive away. Right? And so I have to go through all of those regulatory hurdles again, which is extremely costly and difficult. And so having support from enterprises, having the scalability within the industrial sector enables us to move a little bit faster once we're ready to take on the regulatory burden on the government side.
I 100% agree. I would say that, as you were saying on your slides, Will, on Water Foundry, on the early stages that you are focused, like seed, Series A, and how the accelerator is like targeting specific startups at an early stage as well. What I have encountered, and I have worked with government before in my previous venture, is, and I have worked with Coca-Cola since I am 23, and ABI, and Unilever, and Colgate, and so on, and they have trained me, and they have received me, and they have the resources to be at the speed of innovation at the early stages. Mm-hmm. And I have not seen that cycle, and like as if we are not an ideal customer profile for government, right? It's like we need to build the right structure. I know that some water utilities and some governmental offices, like they do have like an early stage, patch for innovators, but that's something that we can all work together. So also they can be our like partners at the early stages as well, right? That's something I would add.
Yeah, and Mary, quick comment. From a Quito standpoint, we work actually with city utilities, but I would say we've been around for almost 8 years, and Will and Carolina know this, that city utilities, we go through a very rigorous RFP process, and it's taken time, but we've been able to make some breakthrough. The biggest feedback I would say for UNDP that we have seen cross-functionally is we've deployed recently at West Bank and near Israel. It's been a cross-functional collaboration between the government, a local NGO on the ground, and then being able to get a startup the startup alone getting into a government relationship is far more complicated because there needs to be extensive credibility validation from a local institution. That's what we've seen in outside US. And within the US, it's usually the size of the utility and the volume of decision makers that make it a faster yes or no. So if you want something done in a couple of years, a mid-sized utility of 250,000 people is far better approachable than like Washington, DC, like DC Water or LADWP. So that just gives you a little bit of comparison of where startups can still have success in public sector, even if it's trickling success.
I think that question was perfect to tie it with this question coming from Maeve Hall, who is a former Unilever water lead and now still working at the private sector on water, but also part of the 100 Plus family. And I can see Annie smiling because Maeve was such a champion of that pilot. And her question is, should government incentivize water uptake of water tech, especially in catchments and countries of high water insecurity, and any experience of this happening in other sectors?
Will?
You're looking at me? Huh. Oh, no. Well, all right, I'll weigh in. So I think the short answer is yes. I think the public sector, is slow, but once they decide that they're going to do something, there's enormous potential in terms of scale. Examples, I'd say look at the energy sector, renewables, and take what has worked well there. So, I mean, once the public sector got engaged on renewables, it has contributed to the scaling that we're seeing right now. With respect to water, there's actually a water technology accelerator based in New York City. Spoken to them, and it's the public sector trying to figure out what are the best solutions to benefit the city of New York, which is pretty significant. So I'd look at that example.
We have some
I'll
questions.
also quickly weigh in, just a thought here as well. I think again, like there's a nexus between water and energy. And especially like I'm even thinking like IRA, for example, so Inflation Reduction Act in the United States. There are definitely ties that exist and connections that can be made for water tech startups and entrepreneurs in terms of public sector kind of support and also funding in this kind of in IRA, it's kind of like tax credits and rebates. And so there are definitely parallels that can be drawn, or at least connections that can be made to be able to tap into these resources that exist. I think it's just making that more widely known is important.
Wonderful. We have a question over there.
Hi there, Ludwig Werfbein from the Netherlands, Nedamco. Many thanks to the panel, very inspiring. I want to talk about environmental credits for a second. I know there's been a lot of scrutiny on carbon credits. However, I do think it's had a positive impact on the larger level. A lot of initiatives have come up, trees have been planted. What do you think is the need and the demand for water certificates? And let me add there, digitally measured water credits. Thank you.
The guy that he has right on the row next to him, it's a great leader on that as well, right? So you need to talk to the guy that right in front of you. You can raise your hand higher, I guess.
A potential new startup in our next cohort, also in the a prospect applicant.
What do we say, right? Like, I know how technology can enable, right? But I believe there are like philosophical controversies around this, right? On like the global and the local approach. And what I will say is that as technology and science evolves and like we develop the best science available and the best data sets to understand the problem and the impact, we will have the best tools available to decide on whether like we can create like a local credit or a global, like vehicle or solution. I see you, Will, and I am like, I want your opinion here. I know that we most likely will be able to add value from a science and technology side by putting together like understandings on what's going on. Like it's not as linear as in carbon, right? And it's quite local. Like my mentor that introduced me to you says that I can never say water credit, right? Like because of
No. Look, I've evolved over time. So
Thank you.
Just real quick, I believe there are opportunities for that, but just be careful. You brought it up, Nico. Water's got more attributes than a ton of carbon. It's not fungible. It has a social, a spiritual dimension to it. So it's not about credits for water quality or a liter of water. It's just going to be more complicated. But I do believe that there are market opportunities for that, and clearly enabled by digital tech.
Wonderful. So we have one more question here, and I know there's another question there, and I think after that, sadly, we will need to close. Of course, we would love to have this conversation for many more hours with all of you. And this question is for all the panel, and maybe if each of you can answer short and sweet. It's a question from Sumita saying, how does the engagement start? Does the company reach out to you to help find solutions, or do you go out and find companies who might benefit from your expertise?
Yes.
Yes to which one? To both.
You got to do both. You got to do both. I mean, the opportunity with the ABI 100 Plus Accelerator is amazing because you have now exposure to 4 different large enterprise clients, right? And so we get to understand their challenges, and I wholeheartedly agree with Nico's comment. Apply to accelerators if you're early stage, and we get to learn from those customers what the need is. But sometimes we get people reaching out to us. More often than not, we're reaching out to them to say, I know where you're located. I know what you do. I can save you some money and enable your sustainability goals. And so you got to do both.
100% aligned with my colleague.
Yeah, yes to both. And I would say that if they're coming inbound, it's a lot more attractive, obviously, because they actually know their pain point, and there's a faster curve to solving the problem mutually together. If you're going and reaching out, there's a far up curve of education and awareness to bring them to learn. So I think just know that both are needed, both happen, but one is a lot shorter cycle than the other.
Yes to both. Yeah, agree.
Excellent. So now we have time for the last and final question.
Yeah, thank you. Belina Frias from the Global Area of Sustainability of BBVA. It's a bank, commercial bank. So my question in this point is, what do you think is the role of commercial banks to accelerate this kind of new innovations? Because we have access for the industries and different sectors. So I would like to hear your opinion about this. And just, it's all.
Well, I can take it from my perspective. So Mina and I are both hardware companies to some extent. Aquacycle is a big hardware company. And so from a financing perspective, we look forward to getting to know you. As we are deploying hardware, right, globally, we would prefer to do that with debt financing as opposed to equity, right? And creating special purpose vehicles to finance the asset under loan structures becomes much more financially viable for the company than taking it out of an equity investment. And so from a financing and deployment perspective on hardware, I think that's really where we're always seeking the best interest rate we can get.
Yeah, just to add to what she just said, I think Oriana's point was very specific on the impact of hardware. So I think the commercial banks can really, really help us in having a longer risk portfolio and maybe a slightly better risk appetite, which would make a huge difference for water startups in general. Whether it's Ketos, whether it's Aquacycle, we are constrained heavily by how the investment community looks at water milestones and water technologies. And I think that there's a huge missed opportunity for water tech that doesn't get the lifeline that they need for the impact that they can have on a global level. So I would say commercial banks play a massive role in supporting startups of all sizes?
Yeah, I'll also jump in here as well, because I think we bring a pretty unique perspective here at HTOK Innovation. So we are an IoT company, meaning that we do have hardware. We have like our own proprietary sensors that we make, for example, and our own like edge compute gateways, for instance. But it is a little bit unique in that we're not extremely CapEx heavy. So we kind of do have that hardware piece, but not extremely hardware intensive. And so I'd say, like, almost from our perspective, like as also a venture-backed startup that is also on that growth curve and also needing to hit those milestones at a certain amount of time and pace, I'd say almost like where commercial banks are really interesting for us here at HTOK Innovations is really being a connector as well in terms of that ecosystem of different players across different industries, different size companies, from corporates to other types of enterprises as well that could be prospective partners and customers. And I think that like it sits in a unique position of kind of that spoken wheel, like central aggregator, and the ability to have the potential of being a central aggregator. And so that's something that is really interesting to us. And if that's interesting to the audience here, I'd love to definitely connect further.
Three lines, may I?
Of course.
Three area that's not that explored by me, but you can totally ingest our data, like corporate water stewards, and the data that like corporate water people are using are much more granular than the ones that banks are using today from my research. So you can totally ingest those data for asset managing, risk mapping, and so on. The second one would be like keep on pushing, like basically investor relations to report on CDP water security and so on, to keep on evangelizing the sector and get more companies on board. And the third one would be like day-over-day marketplaces are being open with the specificity of basically impact being driven by an ROI, right? So I believe that the right vehicles needs to be developed and the right financial institutions need to be a part of that. Once we crack those indicators from a science and water expertise perspective, with companies that are giving the first steps investing on regenerative agriculture, wetland conservation, and so on, as we continue to define those ROIs, I believe the financial institutions are a key player to expand that impact. Thank you.
Thank you so much for all your questions and for coming here. I'll pass it all to Will to close us off.
So first of all, thank you for being here. Thank you for your interest. You know, I think that these four entrepreneurs, this cohort, the cohorts that came before them, and the next cohort and cohorts deserve a round of applause. They're doing really hard things. And yeah, so we need to help and help them scale and help them have an impact. So thanks to all of them. Thanks to you.
Thank you.
And thanks to ABI.